So I don't think I properly mentioned this in the video, but one of the reasons why I picked Voisin is because I feel like she does not get enough flowers for various reasons. One of them being maybe one of the original sources for a Black Mass. The other one being like iconic French witch. So for those of you who have been following my channel, you know that I've been exploring more of my own red soul, and with that comes connecting to and exploring my estranged father's side of the family, which happens to be very French, which is also part of the reason why I picked this particular witch. Also,
burn and brew with Coven, true and glorious shall be thine.
Friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a practicing witch, and I talk about it here on the internet. If you are a returning subscriber, it's really good to see you back. Thank you so much for coming back. Your support really means the world to me. In today's video, I'm going to be participating in a tag from Abby the Witch. If you're not already familiar with Abby the Witch, go check out their channel. I'm going to link them down below in the description. They recently created a tag, which is hashtag Yellowbird Black Dog. I'm going to be posting that somewhere here. I'm also going to be linking their original tag video in the description of this video. I encourage you to go watch it, especially if you're interested in one, just like watching the original tag instructions. Two, the Yellowbird Black Dog is sort of a traditional witch's craft mystery that Abby goes into more detail, but I'm not going to. In my video, I'm going to be presenting a video essay specifically on Voisin, Voisin. My French pronunciations are atrocious. My first language is English, if you haven't gathered. And even with that, my English is very not proper, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're watching my video essay, that some of the pronunciations are gonna be a little rough. With all that being said, I would love to see like you participate in this tag. So I'm gonna tag some people down below in the description, but also if you're watching this, just like consider yourself tagged. Be sure to use the hashtag Yellowbird Black Dog, so that way like I can actually find your video, because I would love to watch it. Without any further ado, let's roll this video essay on Voisin.
Bonjour, ami. Today, I will be presenting another video essay here on the channel. Recently, I polled the community asking you all what sort of content you would like to see more of me, and video essays were among the top responses. So ask, and I shall do my best to provide. Be sure to check my community tab if you would like to participate in any of my other polls. Today, we are going to go back in time to the 17th century France to unveil the witch lore of Catherine Monovison, known as Voisin. I apologize as well in advance for some of my pronunciation in this video, as my first language is English, and even with that, I'm not very well refined. Keep in mind that while the lore has developed in legend over time, the sources of all the witch lore regarding this subject were once real, living, and breathing people of the past with goals, hopes, and fears just like us today. In some ways, we here in America are not so different than the 17th century France. If you know, you know. So forget the fairy tales, because this story is the real deal. It's about poison and black masses, a witch who held the court of Louis XIV in her crooked grasp. Get ready to have your idea of royal intrigue turned upside down as we explore the life and crimes of the infamous Voisin. Let's get started. Catherine Montfaucon, better known as Voisin, remains one of the most intriguing and notorious figures in all of French history. Born around 1640, her life was a complicated tapestry woven from the threads of fortune-telling, midwifery, and the peddling of folk charms, and of course, most infamously, witchcraft. Voisin's rise to prominence in Parisian society offers a fascinating glimpse into the underbelly of the glittering court of Louis XIV, where superstition and desperation mingled freely amongst opulence and power. Voisin's early life was relatively ordinary, but she did possess a keen and an entrepreneurial spirit. She was an OG girl boss and was married to Anthony Montfaucon, a well-regarded jeweler. She initially sought honest means to support her family. However, as financial struggles mounted when her husband's business failed, she turned to more unconventional methods to support her and her family. Her husband made some poor business choices and ended up taking on a significant amount of debt that he was unable to repay with his profits. Maybe his business grew too fast, and maybe he was irresponsible. Regardless, she had to figure out a way to keep herself and her family from falling deeper into poverty. She began practicing chiromancy and tasseomancy, quickly gaining the reputation for her uncanny accuracy. Chiromancy is the art of palmistry, and tasseomancy is the art of reading tea leaves. Both of these services at the time were seen as somewhat subversive, as they were forms of divination condemned by the wider culture of the time, but also seen as a form of sort of underground taboo entertainment. Her skills soon expanded to include midwifery and herbal remedies, making her a trusted figure amongst the women of Paris. And it was during this time that she also began to dabble in the occult, a path that would ultimately lead to her infamy. As her reputation grew, her clientele expanded to include members of the aristocracy who sought her services for everything from predicting the future to obtaining love and seeking her herbal remedies and potions. Her folk charms included various specialties, but she was most known for attracting luck and bringing love. Her home became a hub of clandestine activity where nobles and commoners alike gathered in search of answers and solutions to their heart's desires. This truly puts the craft mystery of cotton and silk in question. If you know, then you know. However, Voisin's activities took a sinister turn when she became involved in the production and distribution of poisons. In the eyes of the wider culture of the time, there was just a needlepoint worth of difference between what we might consider good or bad magic. It is alleged that she was collaborating with a network of accomplices, apothecaries, and priests. She had quite the social web with influential connections to folks from all different walks of life. It is also alleged that she provided deadly concoctions to those seeking to eliminate rivals or unfaithful spouses. Allegation was that she was assisting in performing abortions through some of her skills in midwifery and herbalism. Now, some might find the most shocking aspect of her enterprise would be the involvement of high-ranking members of the royal court, who turned to her to secure their positions and eliminate their enemies. The ensuing scandal, known as the Affair of Poisons, threatened to expose the ugliest of secrets of the French monarchy and forever tarnish the legacy of the Sun King. The Sun King is a sort of nickname for Louis XIV. He saw himself as the center of France, much like how the sun is the center of our heavens. And, you know, I think that says a lot about his character. Voisin's association with witchcraft is also intertwined with her other activities, like mentioned above with fortune-telling and the provision of poison. She operated in a time when occult practices were both feared and sought after, particularly among those desperate for solutions to their problems. Her involvement in the craft wasn't just about casting spells or performing rituals. It was a comprehensive package that catered to the desires and fears of her clients, many of whom, again, as mentioned, were members of higher society, the French aristocracy. In practice, she did involve elaborate ceremonies and rituals, sometimes even incorporating elements of Christian liturgy and what became known as black masses. These ceremonies were typically performed to invoke allegedly demonic forces to grant the desires of her clients, whether it was to gain someone's love, ensure success, or cause harm to an enemy. Accounts suggest that these rituals could be quite shocking, involving blasphemous acts and allegedly even human sacrifice, although the extent of these practices remains a subject of historical debate. These details of her crimes may also be some of the earliest sources for what we now call a black mass and a black baptism. Voisin's ability to blend traditional witchcraft practices with elements of the dominant religion of the time further enhanced her reputation and appeal. She allegedly would frequently aid her clients in making pacts with worldly spirits, potentially even fairies, which by the wider society would be synonymously seen as just demonic spirits. This was done to obtain her client's desires, sort of working as a middleman between the client and the spirits. Also, allegedly forming deals and pacts and aiding in the communication between her client and the devil. I think a lot of our modern left-hand path, Luciferian, and satanic magical groups have a lot of inspiration that they could pull from her particular trial, as the Black Mass is one of TST's main rituals. On the 27th of December, 1679, Louis XIV issued an order that the whole network should be exterminated by all methods, regardless of rank, sex, or age. This came after all of her deeds became exposed. She was implicated and exposed by another alleged witch who also dabbled in poisons and fortune-telling, Marie Bose. She was known as La Bose, meaning the hump or the bump. And you can make of that as you will, but I think it creates an interesting visual if you picture it in your mind's eye. I find it somewhat sad that she was caught due to the jealousy of her competition in the witch trade of France. You know, it really do be your own people sometimes. The arrest of Voisin was followed by the arrest of her network of associates, leading to a crazed sort of witch hunt that primarily targeted the royal court and higher society, making this particular witch hunt very different than others, as the rich quite literally began turning on their own. And oftentimes we see the poor and marginalized women being the targets of such crimes, but not in Voisin's case. Sadly, Voisin was executed by being burned alive at the stake on February 22nd, 1680, in the Place de Grève in Paris. She was convicted of witchcraft, poisoning, and other satanic deeds. During her execution, she reportedly pushed away the priest and the hay that was piled around her. The most important and well-documented clients of Voisin was Madame de Montespan, the official royal mistress of King Louis XIV. Their contract was often performed through the companion of Montespan. Montespan was alleged to have hired Voisin in 1667 to arrange a black mass. This mass was celebrated in a house in Rue de la Tannerie. Adam Lesage and Abbé Mariette officiated, while Montespan prayed to win the love of the king. The same year, Montespan became the official mistress of the king, and after this, she employed La Voisin whenever a problem occurred in her relationship with the king, further implicating La Voisin with her nefarious weaving over King Louis. In 1673, when the king's interest in Montespan seemed to wane, Montespan again employed La Voisin, who provided a series of black masses officiated by priest Etienne Goyberg on at least one occasion. Montespan herself acted as a human altar allegedly during the mass, and La Voisin provided Montespan with an aphrodisiac with which Montespan drugged the king. And during the king's affair with Madame de Soubise, Montespan used an aphrodisiac provided by Voisin's colleague and made by Louis Gallet in Normandy. Among many other allegations and sources for these black masses, La Voisin was also accused of attempting to kill the king after his mistress was thrown to the wayside and forgotten about. La Voisin decided to make a poisoned petition that she was going to hand deliver to the king, as the king would frequently host these open courts where people could petition him. She, however, was intercepted by some monks and luckily was able to hand the petition over to her daughter to then destroy it and burn it. So there was not hard, concrete evidence of her intentions to kill the king. During La Voisin's trial, her daughter was also implicated and refused to speak against her mother during the trial, allegedly because she was afraid of what that might mean if she were to speak against her mother. During La Voisin's trial, she denied ever serving the mistress Montespan. She did admit Paris is full of this kind of thing, and there's an infinite number of people engaged in the evil trade, but refused to further mention any names of clients, nor did she mention having arranged or participated in any black masses. She once did mention to the guards that the question she feared most was that they would ask her about her visits to the royal court. It's likely that she was referring to Montespan as her client, and her attempt at murdering the king was that she feared such a confession could result in her execution. Her list of clients, the arranging of black masses, and her connection to Montespan and the murder attempt on the king were not revealed until after her death, when it was stated by her own daughter and confirmed by the testimonies of her former associates. She also denied claims of her using an oven to burn the bones of aborted infants that were too large for the grave area in her garden. She also counterclaimed any usage of poisons that she made only possessed purgatives for personal use or for her family. Another accusation includes injecting syringes with fatal liquids into the bodies of pregnant women to empty them, after which the aborted fetuses were subsequently burned in the same manner or buried in the grave within her garden. As mentioned before, La Voisin was put on trial, convicted of witchcraft, and sentenced to execution by burning 2 days later after her trial. In the days following her verdict, her execution, she was formally interrogated under torture. The official document stated that she was tortured enough to where she begged for mercy. However, while an official permit for torture was issued, the police were given to understand that the permit was not to be used. Gabriel de la RAINN stated that La Voisin was in reality never subjected to torture. Madame de Sévigné, who observed La Voisin shortly before her execution, described her as being able to move so freely and seemingly healthy that it did not seem possible for her to have been the subject of torture. These final interrogations leading up to trial did not lead to anything new, and La Voisin was executed in public on the Place de Grève in Paris on the 22nd of February 1680. On her way to her execution, she reportedly pushed away the priest And when fastened on the stake, she desperately pushed away the hay which was piled around her, cursing all of the onlookers that were going to be engaging and watching her public burning at the stake. Later that July, her daughter, Marguerite Montvisan, revealed her connection to Montespan, which was confirmed by the statements of the other accused witches within her network. This caused the monarch to eventually close the investigation, seal the testimony, and place the remaining accused outside of the public justice system by imprisoning them under what was known as the lettre de cachette, which was essentially basically a legal mandate that would protect remaining higher society witches of the royal court from being burned alive in the public square, but instead they would be sentenced to life in prison to rot and wither until their eventual death. Venerating Voisin as a modern witch involves a nuanced approach, acknowledging her complex history while finding aspects of her practice that resonate with contemporary witchcraft. It's important to remember that historical figures often have complicated legacies, and Voisin is no exception. Some of her story has also become woven into legend, and the lines between reality and fiction tend to get a little bit blurry. As traditional witches, we pull threads from these events to incorporate them into our own practice. With that in mind, here are some ways that modern witches might choose to honor her and incorporate elements of her story into their practices. For starters, research and education. Start by thoroughly researching her life, practices, and the historical context in which she operated. Understanding the nuances of her story is crucial before attempting to venerate her. Consider printing out and framing a portrait of her. Lighting a candle in her memory can be a form of veneration and a way to build a relationship with what we might call her black soul. Voisin's story is deeply intertwined with elements of power, desire, and the darker aspects of human nature. Incorporating her into reflective work can involve exploring your own ambitions, confronting your own hidden desires, and acknowledging the parts of yourself that you might typically express. This makes for great journaling in your Book of Shadows. Rituals for social justice. Given her role in helping women seek power and justice in a patriarchal society, you might create rituals that focus on empowering marginalized individuals or seeking justice for those who have been wronged. This can involve spells for protection, strength, or the exposure of hidden truths. The way the world is set up now is not terribly different than the climate at the time, and we here in America are also suffering under a Mad King archetype as well. Witches have folklorically and historically always been associated with the resistance, so let's act like it. Ask yourself, how can you best serve your local community? Voisin was known for her knowledge of herbs and crafting of tonics. Modern witches can honor her by studying herbalism, learning about the properties of different plants, and creating their own herbal remedies, which can also extend to the study of alchemy and astrology, as those were also both focused specialties of Voisin. Consider even making a petition to her for assisting you in these studies and lighting a devotional candle studying. When performing spells or rituals, you can invoke Voisin's name or energy to lend strength and focus to your intention. This could be particularly relevant in spells related to justice, empowerment, uncovering hidden truths, and obtaining desires of the heart. She was known to be a powerful spiritual matchmaker for making pacts with spirits. Consider requesting her aid in your arts of sorcery, invoking her presence to lend her skills to mediating your spirit meetings. And as a renowned fortune teller, Voisin can be honored by developing your own divination skills. This could involve learning tarot, astrology, or other forms of divination that resonate with you personally. Use these tools to gain insight into your own life and maybe even the lives of others, offering guidance and support where appropriate. Her divination arts of choice were thought to be tea leaves and palmistry, so consider petitioning her for those arts even more. And please do remember that venerating any historical figure, such as Voisin or any other witch from the past, is going to be a personal journey and building that sort of relationship. It's about finding the aspects of their stories that resonate with you and incorporating them into your practice in a way that feels authentic and meaningful while being respectful to the past. I think that's going to be it for this video. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video by subscribing to my channel and giving this video a like. Is there a witch from the past that you would like to see me cover in this way? Please leave a comment down below and let me know. I love hearing your suggestions.
I hope that you all have enjoyed this video. It was really fun putting this together. Be sure to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Thank you all again so much. And until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell. Bye.
Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Circle sewn with fate, unlock thy hidden